IBEC. I'm delighted and honored to be an opening note presenter for the event Artificial Intelligence and RPA Transforming Jobs 2018, hosted by IBEC in Bangalore. I really wanted to be physically there in this event, but now I can only manage virtual presence. I wish to extend a warm welcome to our speakers, Jos Bell, Kishore Chand, Tamara Monzon, Nandish Manandi, Ashok Adi, who are there to share their experiences and insights about AI and RPA transforming industry and thereby impacting jobs. A warm welcome also to fellow delegates and all audience attending through live and virtual channels. Before moving to event topics, I would like to introduce IBEC with a few words. It is common knowledge now that every field, including businesses, research, politics, academia, is in huge demand for data science professionals. As per the IBM report, by 2020, about 2.7 million new data scientists are required in various related jobs, and growth rate is projected to explode from there. It is hard fact that there is a huge gap between this demand and qualified data science professionals. IBEC is founded in early 2017 with the vision to be a leading global association of data science professionals in aligning data science professional skills to industry requirements. IBEC's body of knowledge is based on European Commission project Edison, a 2-year project with the purpose of accelerating the creation of the data science profession. IBEC's mission is to prepare the future data science professionals with the best practice data science skills by providing training through a network of global education partners and certified through rigorous assessments in various data science areas. Please let me hand you over now to our event host, Kunjan Sharma. I wish you a very joyful event. Thank you.
Thank you, Hans, for setting up the stage for me. Today, we have with us our distinguished guests from Netherlands, Tamara and Jos Bell. Jos, an RPA evangelist, has implemented successful RPA models in organizations around the world: Europe, US, Canada, Asia, Africa, and UK, just to name a few. Jos is a founder of intelligence automation firm New Dawn and a consultant in corporate strategy and holds a master's in entrepreneurship and finance. Jos has worked as a management consultant with Logica, Novartis, and is with Capgemini for past 3 years. Tamara is a managing partner of New Dawn and the former head of financial services at Capgemini Consulting. Tamara specializes in digital process optimization, risk management, and culture change. Tamara is also a board member of BPF BOW, a pension fund building companies. Tamara is also a member of supervisory board of several prestigious organizations in Netherlands. Tamara holds several master's and postgraduate degree from VU University. Please welcome Jos Bell, our next speaker.
Well, thank you everyone for joining today, and it's a pleasure. And it's a pleasure for us to be here today in Bangalore. Well, as you can already, as already mentioned, robotics and AI is definitely changing the way the market is moving, and it's well, already well known within organizations throughout the world that robotics is now the way to go, and companies are now afraid to be left out, so every company now wants to move into this area. That's also the reason for us to start New Dawn, because we noticed that there's a very large demand throughout the world in the area of robotics, RPA and artificial intelligence. We created a presentation for you today about what the market is saying, the future of work. But first of all, let's start with a brief introduction of ourselves. My name is Jos Pellis, already mentioned, founder of New Dawn, together with Tamara Monson. And we are focusing on the areas of robotics, people in digital, data strategy, artificial intelligence, and analytics. And these are our sweet spots and where we have a lot of knowledge and capabilities. And well, we see that there's so much demand throughout the world that this is just a very interesting time for us as well to be working. But let's first take a step back and look at what the market is saying. Well, if we look at all the different large organizations, whether it's the World Economic Forum, McKinsey, Horses for Sources, the common denominator is that everybody is saying the market is going to fundamentally change in the next 10 years. The way we are working right now is going to completely transform, because robots are taking over a lot of jobs. And that also creates some uncertainty, but also, and that's based on my own experience, is it also creates a lot of enthusiasm with people. And it also depends on how do you bring this message, what are you going to do, and how are you going to start with robotics and help organizations make that transformation. It's really exciting, and people usually do not see this as a threat yet. In some places, yes, they do, but most of them are really enthusiastic and are willing also to learn new capabilities to basically see if the robot is going to take a lot of the mundane work that I'm doing right now, and I only have fun stuff to do. That's going to be great. So how are we going to facilitate that? If we look at the impact of the workforce, if you look at at research that has been done, the robots are not going to take up all of the work. It's only going to take up some parts of the work. And I think that's what you see in most of the research that has been done, where we basically see robots are going to be co-workers, or are going to be taking up some of the parts of the work that we humans are basically not designed for to do. So what we're basically doing is taking the robot out of the human, and yet that the human do more of the creative, the thinking, and do the stuff that robots are not really capable of doing right now. And another threat that is sometimes seen is that it's just a cost-cutting exercise. But if we look at this research, it's not. Companies are mainly looking at investing in AI and robotics because they want to have a competitive advantage. They want to get into a new business, or they are afraid that other companies are entering this business, so they need to invest in this, and they need to start innovating, entering new areas, because it's just a necessity. Also, another common denominator is that we see this throughout all different markets. If we look at the big effect today, roughly 15 to 25% of different industries think that it's going to have an impact right now. But if you look in the impact for the next 5 years, 60 to 70% of companies throughout different industries are saying this is going to heavily impact my way of working. And I think, and that's also what we saw with robotics when we did research 2 years ago, and we looked at where do people think that, or organizations think that robotics is going to have effect. That there was only 40% of organizations said, well, within finance, we think that robotic process automation is going to have an effect. If we did that 18 months later, it was 95%. So you will see these percentages go up. as organizations are also learning about what is robotic process automation, what is artificial intelligence, what can it do, what can't it do. There's so much education to be done with organizations throughout the world. I think 50% of my time is about educating business in what is a robot, what can a robot do, or what can artificial intelligence do. I see people already nodding and saying yes, and that's exactly how it works, because people sometimes have no clue. Organizations are sometimes saying, okay, so this is my process. It's basically, well, crap, to be honest. It's a lot of things pulled together and people are doing a lot of manual work. Can you please have a robot for this? And then you really need to look at the organization and the process and then say, well, look, you need to take a step back and you need to do a lot of other stuff before you can go into robotics, because your organization is not ready for this yet. So there's also a lot of education to be done as to what can a robot do, where is artificial actually possible or not, where is the business case, and is it actually, does it make sense to do that? So we've developed a methodology for that to help organizations start off right from the get-go, because it's so important to do this correctly. Then what is the effect on the long term for organizations? Because we definitely see that the skills that most people are having right now are not going to be sufficient in the next 10 years. The market is changing, and well, to be able to get that sustainable growth, grow top line, but also reduce your bottom line costs, there's a lot of things that people now need to do, because I've had companies just recently, a month ago in the UK, for instance, where they had a lot of people just doing operational activities, just manual stuff, keying in data, day in, day out. It's crazy. And you can just have a robot for that doing that for you. And you just focus on the things that are really adding value to the business. Because essentially that's what you're talking about. Adding value to the business, or giving time back to the business. And really focus on those value-adding activities. And a robot can do that for you, or can create new insights and support that decision-making. So if we look at the 10 skills that are really going to be necessary to really embed within your organization, what is the complex problem solving? Well, we usually do not see, sometimes even within our organization or even departments within organizations, there are boundaries. They do not oversee that full end-to-end process or see where the complexity is. Well, can you imagine that between organizations or between different industries? We humans are usually not capable of seeing that brighter picture and seeing the whole end-to-end process, or see where the relationships are. Now that we have big data, for instance, we can get those analysis, we can get those insights, and now it's up to us to do that complex problem solving. Also critical thinking. What we sometimes see, especially with chatbots, for instance, they are able of getting, you ask them a question, they give you insights, but it's not always possible for them to get that real critical thinking as to, you know, what are we actually looking for? And that's what we humans are really good at. Creativity. Well, sometimes AI systems can be a little bit creative, but it's only if you taught them to do that. But they're very good at getting those real complex information together for us humans to make those decisions. Creativity is still a very, very important skill that we humans have to find solutions for different scenarios. People management. What we also see sometimes, and that's what where Tamara and I had some very good discussions on, if we look into the future, we actually see that it's becoming more and more important for people to be self-managers of their own, well, maybe digital workforce even. So that also means that you're going to have different people skills, not just on an operational level, but also on a tactical and strategic level. Coordinating cross capabilities. Effective communication, and especially communication between people, is going to be so very important. AI and robotics can do that operational activities for you. It can really reduce your workload. It can do a lot of work for you. But the time that we then have available, it should be used for working together, cross-collaboration, and really find where is the added value. Also the emotional intelligence. Chatbots, as mentioned, are very good at getting that data and transforming that into, I have a question, here's your solution. But sometimes there's a different emotional discussion that someone wants to have with the organization. It's maybe not really an answer to a question, but there's something behind that. Well, AI can sometimes, it can already understand the emotion sometimes and measure that emotion. So someone in a call center, for instance, can relate to that. So it's really helpful for that. But the real emotional intelligence, systems do not have that capability yet. And I think it's very good for an organization if you're available to, or if you're capable of seeing the emotion through a conversation with somebody. And you can already counter your reactions based on what the system is giving you as, oh, well, this person is now getting angry. I need to give this kinds of answers. So you get a very more clear understanding and a very good relational bonding with your clients. Very important. Judgment and decision making still. It's good that we have a lot of data that we can now make better decisions and get better solutions. But still, judgment and decision making is still something that we humans need to do. And we need to train our people in giving those better judgments. The service orientation, well, I think that also relates to the chatbots with the support of the emotions, etc. It can then give you a better customer experience because that's what organizations are looking for. A better customer satisfaction is going to eventually drive your top line growth and is going to help you keep your customers and keep them happy. Negotiation. It's going to be interesting if we are going to have two AI systems trying to negotiate some kind of outcome, but I don't think that that's something that we can do. So it's still going to be some human interaction needed, I guess, to really get that good win-win situation. So, and the cognitive flexibility. Systems can, of course, give some bit of an insight into what kind of emotion is the customer in, for instance, and how do I need to respond to that. But the systems are not capable of giving that right direction, but it can give you as a human or a customer service representative the right kind of feedback to see, okay, so I need to move into this direction. It can give suggestions. But of course, the human interaction and the human involvement is still going to be very critical. Now, if we look at the top 5 industry sectors that are going to be in very high demand, it's of course going to be the technological and computational thinking. It's also the caregiving. You see a lot of interesting developments in the hospital markets, for instance, with getting AI systems to already give more insights into radiology, for instance, but also if you need to have a new arm or a new leg or all those kinds of things, there's so many exciting things going on right now. Social intelligence and media, of course, and this is also relating to AI. There's so much development going on at this point in time. The other one, lifelong learning. Of course, because there is so much development going on right now, we as humans cannot just sit back and relax. But what we already said about 5 years ago is that it's a lifelong learning. This is now only going to be accelerated because there's way more need right now because AI systems are going this fast that it's really necessary for us to see what are now the capabilities that my workforce need to have or need to develop to be able to get the right customer service level, to make sure that we are able to support our customers and keep them happy customers. And adaptability and business acumen. If we then look at the top 10 demand in jobs, data analytics is number 1, and I think that's not really a surprise maybe. but there's such a huge demand. I don't know how it is here in India, but I know in Europe it's really difficult to find very good candidates that have very good data analytical skills. A lot of universities are right now moving into this and trying to scale this up, where I think in India they already have done this over the last few years and they're way advanced compared to Europe and also America. And that's an interesting thing, because when I was building up my workforce in robotics in Europe, it was very difficult to find the right people. And it was such a nightmare to find the right people with the right qualities. And I think here in India, they have a lot of people already in this area. And that's why it's really good that it was already a global economy. But you can see right now that it's just increasing, because there's so much demand in this area. It's crazy. People within the medical business has already mentioned there's so much developments going on also in the medical departments, medical world, not just with like the radiology, but also prosthetics, all those kinds of things. There's a lot of things going on right now with developments, just because we can. Sales and marketing, top line growth, customer service representatives, again, focus on the added value. Let the robot get all the data for you, so you're able to get a good conversation with your clients and give them better advice or better solutions, just because you know what the customer's looking for, you know how to bond with the customer based on the emotion that the customer is showing you, and you can respond to that. It's very important. Management analysts, there's so much data, and it's good to have that data analytics, but what are we going to do with that as management, and how do we need to focus on that? So the need for business information managers, for instance, is going to increase significantly, because they're also turning the data into strategic decisions. Of course, the software development, developers and computer programmers, well, I think this is in Europe already an issue. The demand for robotic process automation is so big that the market cannot cope with this. So what we usually do, what I usually did when I was building these kinds of projects with customers worldwide, is that we were training people from the customer side, not just because it's better for an organization to build that capability as such, but also because we were not able to cope with that demand. It was ridiculous, basically. But again, that's also interesting to see. Maybe one that's on the list which you would not imagine, veterinarians. It's interesting, but again, some of the specific jobs, because this is such a huge market now. People are also choosing other kinds of professions, and that also has an effect on other jobs as well. Product designers and creatives, because there is such a interesting developments, and we find new applications for this, for all these kinds of AIs, but also robotics. That, you know, building this industry to make it also an attractive product, or to see how can we make sure that customers are going to adapt to this, that its possibilities are immensely advancing. Teachers and trainers. That's not just for high schools and universities, but also for training academies that also need to cope with, you know, we need experts in these areas, but where are they? And where can you find these kinds of things? There's such a vast demand and so much need within companies, but they just basically don't know where to find that capabilities. Accountants and auditors. Well, as our organization is trying to reduce those kinds of accounting and auditing purposes by building robots for implementing control frameworks done by robots and AIs. We'll hopefully see if we can get that out of the top 10 for the next coming years, but still there's a large demand. I think also within large accounting firms that they might not like to hear this this message, but as within finance departments, there's a very good possibility for implementing robotics. Why not develop a robot that can do all the controls and checks for you? Just send it out to the auditors and say, look, we did all the processes, we're compliant, we have the outcome for you, here's the report, now let's renegotiate our contract prices. That's actually what one of my clients in Germany said a year ago when we started robotics, when she was like, hey, so why not implement this for a whole control framework and see if we can reduce the price for external auditing by about 25%. Makes sense, eh? This is what we think is going to happen within the next 3 to 5 years in this market. And I think it's a very interesting time to be working in this area, in this field. There's so much going on, so many developments. And if I look back at when I started in this area 3 years ago and where we're right now, it's just going to be a huge, exciting opportunity for all of us to be working in this area because it's so dynamic. There's so many possibilities, and it's really interesting to be working in this. And that's just it's an energy boost for me. And that's also why I would like to encourage you also to continue working on this, exploring in this, making mistakes, but also learning and growing because it's an interesting time. And that's it from our perspective. Any questions? Yeah, go ahead.
So when you say top 10 demand, jobs in demand,
Yeah.
are you talking about the gap or the volume of the jobs?
It's the volumes of the jobs, but then again, because there's so much demand for it, there's also going to be gaps related to this. So if you are now talking to I know your daughters are a little bit too young, but if they would go to university, well, I would say pick one of the top 3, and you're going to be set for the rest of your life. But it's definitely going to it's the volumes actually that's already needed, but there's already a gap there, and it's only going to get bigger, for sure.
And then to add on that, if you look at in the Netherlands, the universities at the moment, they just can't they can't take on the students.
Yeah.
So they're closing the university at the moment because they don't have teachers
Yeah.
on the top 3. So if you look at data analytics, it's a huge gap that's going to be even bigger
Yes.
in the future because we can't deliver, we can't train our people, we can't train our youngsters. So, but that's also an opportunity for like yourself for India because you have the capabilities and you are growing and you are building this knowledge expertise much faster basically than we are currently doing.
Yes.
So it will change the dynamics.
Yes, and I think that's a common denominator throughout Europe and America actually, where they were very slow in building those capabilities and really investing in this. And from that perspective, India is way ahead. And I think that's really good. That also builds a very interesting proposition for seeing, how can you get that knowledge and transform it into capabilities in other countries as well. I think the universities, as Tamara said, and then that's within Europe and America, they're now building a lot of these kinds of academic programs to really into data science, for instance, all those kinds of things, data analytics. It's too late. It's going to take at least 4 years before these people are going to enter the market. If you see already the demand right now, that's crazy. Any more questions?
I'd be interested to know, do we have any insights on how China as a country is doing in this space? Because in terms of really advancement in data science, my belief is that I think surely the pie really lies between India, US and China.
Yeah.
And what is the level of advancement right now and where is the rest of the world?
Yeah. I think I don't have data on China as such, but yes, China is, especially in some areas, they're really advanced. Especially if you look at what the Chinese governance, for instance, is looking with all the cameras and recognizing, doing all facial recognitions.
Sure.
They're doing it for a wrong cause, of course, but they're really advanced in that perspective. But I think they're really investing in this very heavy. They are they are really far from that perspective. I think the issue that they mainly have is their language barrier still. Not just from a language perspective in writing and speaking, but also with coding and those kinds of things, which is completely different. So they're a little bit isolated. So internally, yes, they can do a lot, but I think they need to do a lot to make it an export product from their perspective. And that's of course the benefit that they have in India, because they're already outsourcing was the first wave of a lot of labor moving to India. And this is also why robotics is, for instance, really big already within India, because that's where it started. Now I have quite some discussions with clients in Europe and America where they're saying, well, I outsourced my work to India, but I believe I could do it quicker and cheaper by insourcing my process again and using robots for it. So either here in India, there's already a lot going on in this topic, and they're doing a lot of robotics. Capgemini, for instance, is reducing their workforce in India by 50 FTEs a month, just because they're building robots to do that kind of work. That's mainly outsourcing. But can you imagine on a broader scale how this is going to turn out? So it's also, from that perspective, operational activities are not going to cut it. You need to move into added value activities. That's basically the key message.
And I think the benefit of China is the fact that the government is behind it, so completely focused. But if you can't integrate cultures, it's very, it will also be something that will make it valuable, but for them. And like you're saying, I think it's very interesting to see how you can actually merge cultures and build together in a world that is basically getting more and more connected. So I see advantages and I see disadvantages of the way the progress is being formed in China.
Okay.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So we heard a lot about this AI and RPA, and but I was just wondering that it's more of people required in the future is more towards the functional side, or is it in a technology?
I think especially from the technical side. I think if we look in the situation in Europe and America, there's a very large deficit in real strong robot developers. Whether it's in robotic process automation or in the area of AI, there's a lack of basically implementation skills. People with the real technical skills, good technical background to develop. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think just to add, because Josh is the technical guy, and I'm more the person who looks at the impact on the human factor.
Yeah.
I think it's very important if you want to win that you take notice of the fact that you have the humans will not be replaced on a very short notice. They need to be open and they need to be willing to adapt. They need to be willing to do things differently.
Yeah.
So like we shared on the workforce element, the emotional factor will be very important because you will need to have different kind of managers.
Yes.
And the people who do now the practical work need to become managers of their own, and that's a different skill set. Even if you need to manage your robotic workforce, you need to think of how do I build in a feedback, which is very important being a manager, giving feedback to people, telling them that they do how to improve their work. Well, that won't be the same in the technical human integration. So I think that the emphasis will be on both. So you will have people who are very skilled in technical elements that can benefit from this wave, but also the people who have like very special emotional skills that can actually connect people, make them feel safe. Because the circle of trust will be very important in this new set of working. So I agree, and I add a little bit on.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Well, I think that's it from my perspective, Ashok. So, back to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Yos, for your insight. I would now call upon Kishore. Kishore is an entrepreneur who is a veteran in telecom industry. After making his mark in India and MEA region, he is now a startup advisor and currently a part of business group based in Dubai. Kishore?
Alright, so I must say that one of the better presentations we've seen on this subject. Thank you, Josh, for that. And while I agree on most of the points, there's one thing that I somehow have a different viewpoint. Some of the jobs, the top 10 jobs that you mentioned, job number 7 was the job of a vet, which you think will remain, and perhaps not. And I have my reasons for that. Because I did read that the pets themselves will be robotized, and there might be robotic dogs, and the market starts with people like me. I've always wanted to keep a pet, but want to stay away from the nuances of the pet getting over my bed, excuse me, and having to take it out for a walk 2 times in a day. So, I mean, I imagine a world where the next generation would have pets, but they'd all be robotic. I don't know what the vets will do. Anyway, so before we say hi to Gloki, just want to hear a cheer. Do we have any singles in the room? Anyone not married? I have some good news. Very nice. We have a few, huh? Good. So, perfect marriages will exist, and it will come from machine learning. I'll tell you how. So, I mean, imagine a life where, I mean, let's accept people who are married. One of the major needs of getting married and sustaining the relationship is the emotional dependency, emotional comfort that we do get after a long day that we get back home. We need someone to talk to and sort of express ourselves. And think of it that all this can happen with a VR headset. So all that you really need is somebody on the other side. You need to have a conversation. And today that that entire experience comes at a price, big or small. Really depends on how successful our marriages are. But yes, there is a price that we all pay. So there will be the only price that people will pay is to train your machine. So the more you really speak to your spouse, which is virtual, the more it will know about you. It will speak exactly the same things that you want it to, and it will acknowledge, it will appreciate, and all those things which might be missing in a traditional marriage. So good days are ahead of us. So sometimes people do ask me, I actually come from a non-technical background, and when I actually joined Ashok's Institute, people did ask me why and what is it that lies ahead for you. So I said that if there is any one thing that I want to create, I will create the perfect marriage. All right. So this is our handsome Gloki. So it has no relevance to the presentation that we will make, but it is a mascot that we actually built from one of our investments in the edtech space. Yeah. So I would like to sort of outline the what I would like to cover in the next 8 minutes. Would be to walk you guys through what kind of opportunities we are looking at, who we are, why we are doing this, and what way are we targeting to move. So who we are, so we are essentially a group of company. We are based in Dubai. I personally hail from Mumbai. I moved to Bangalore in June. I left my loyalties from Mumbai. I must say that besides the Mumbai food, I absolutely do not miss anything there. People do complain a lot about Bangalore traffic, and Joss and One also complained that it took a long time to really reach here. More good news that there is actually a helicopter service. It takes 4,000 rupees, which is about $80, and you can be here in about 14 minutes next time. Yeah. All right. So I moved to Dubai 12 years ago, and like Gunjan mentioned, that I have some experience in the telco, but really to come to the relevant part, we set up this company about 9 years ago. And so our bread and butter business, the conventional business that we have, is into consumer electronics, sales, distribution, and trading. And Dubai is the Singapore of Middle East, and that should say a lot. So it's essentially a trading hub. We have representative offices in Hong Kong, in US, in Poland. We have one in Turkey, and also some operations in East of Africa. Now, the technology part of it really was set up about 2 years ago. We engaged a research team to help us, where we could deploy part of our investments, and they really chalked out a plan for us. And as an outcome, we decided to set up a sort of small initiative that scouts for very solid opportunities that not only are building great products, not only are coming from great teams, but where we could play a little role in helping them create a footprint, customer footprint in Middle East, and I'll cover those points. So I did not particularly put some faces to who we are, but yes, it comprises of about 33 of us. Mostly everyone is really involved into managing our traditional businesses. Few of us are looking for opportunities in the AI and ML space. And as a token of, let's say, showing the seriousness on our investments is why I actually joined Datamites, because I thought it is important for me to first understand the subject as deeply as I can, so that when I'm sitting across co-founders and senior teams, we at least understand what products they're making, right? So, sorry, I don't have this one.
Yes. The bottom one?
Bottom.
Yes.
Okay. So why machine learning is pretty much answered by Jos, that it has huge amount of potential, and we feel that too, that this space is going to grow phenomenally. And I think there are a lot of business applications. Many of it are really undiscovered. Marriage is one, as we say. And everyone really talks a lot about opportunities within healthcare, with the BFSI segment, agri-tech for India, very, very specific. Telecom, obviously, because they collect a lot of data. And I think functionally, or I would say horizontally, there are a lot of other applications like HR, for example, in people analytics. I mean, we are talking to one such startup which is into predicting. In fact, one of the, Ashok, I must mention that the project that we actually got from IBAC was about predicting employee performance. Just prior to that, I actually deep dived into IBM's data set, which was predicting attrition to about 90%. So they actually deployed the solution at one of the large telcos in the Middle East. And there is a startup which is doing exactly this thing, that they are predicting human or other people performance for the coming years based on historical data. So yeah. So I must also, so from an investor's perspective, this space is very large actually, and every phase of a potential investment has its own advantages and opportunities, challenges, excuse me, and really depending on the profile of the angel or the seed fund investors, people do pick up a sweet spot. For us, the sweet spot really is the pre-series A. So we particularly look at startups which have raised their first round of seed. Typically about $300,000 is what really it takes for a team to build a product. And they have a stable team in place. They have a product which they have sort of is ready, and it has been deployed. They have some sort of market acceptance in terms of, a little footprint of customer. And we are mainly looking at the B2B space. The interesting thing about machine learning is that there is a lot of opportunities in building products rather than building consumer brands. So sure, all of you guys will agree that about 12 to 13 years ago, this whole wave of very large scale consumer brands happened. So from an India perspective, I can talk about names like Ola and Flipkart, and all these success stories really happened in the last 12 years. So we are not in that space, obviously. That is not our bandwidth. Machine learning and data science has those opportunities where people can create very solid products and which has a clear use case of deployment. So those could be industry specific, or like I said, those could be functionally more horizontal. So we are looking at, for us the comfort area is B2B, so anything which can see a faster monetization cycle, those are the opportunities that we'll look at. And once the seed has been raised and we have these 4 things which are tick mark, so any one of these things missing, we just don't do it, yeah? And what we do essentially is to also, so I'll just come back to this slide. So we do make investments in those companies where we can help them expand into the Middle East area, because that is where our core competencies are. We have huge amount of network in all these 4 sectors that I spoke about, in telecom, in BFSI, healthcare, and in retail and e-commerce. So how do we go back to here? Go back.
The second one?
Okay. This one, yes. All right. So at the moment, these are some of the sectors that we are looking at. And just to give you a sense, really no intention to point, but we have direct access to about $14 million of deployment of funds, of which, since we are sort of a recent setup, we have deployed about $1 million across 3 startups, and that should give you some message on what kind of a ticket size do we really look at. And at the moment, we are talking to companies which are making personalized recommendation engines for e-commerce. Some of them are doing something in the food business. And of course, in healthcare, I was mentioning to you also that we are talking to a company which is building what you call a thermal solution-based early breast cancer detection solution, which is non-touch, non-invasive, non-radiation, and no pain, and those kind of things. So it's a very interesting one. We also bumped into this company called CardioTrack. I don't know if you guys have heard of them. So they are into bringing portability of ECG. So something that, so usually a patient is put through an ECG when the symptom is already existing. And doctors themselves agree that by the time a patient is really taken to a primary healthcare where an ECG is conducted, sometimes the symptom has already passed and you're unable to detect anything. So it's a case of luck that the person really survived through that unusuality or in the ECG matrix. So they're doing something very nice here. We are of course talking to some people who are doing some solutions in detecting fraud, detecting the probability of bill payments and payments of EMIs and so on with banks. This is also a very interesting area, I must say, very highly rewarding from a monetization perspective. Banks are paying through their nose actually, because the amount of money that such a solution can actually save for this sector is so huge. And we are also speaking to one of the startups. I must say, this is really more from an India perspective, but there lies a huge opportunity to, what we say is to activate the next 100 million internet users within India. So the internet penetration has definitely seen a huge amount of evolution in the last 20 years within India, but the transactions on the mobile apps have really come to a threshold now. So perhaps everyone sitting in the room must have purchased things from Flipkart or Amazon in India, or booked your taxi rides from Uber and Ola. But there are many 100 millions of people within India who use their smartphones and the internet only to chat on WhatsApp. So that's a segment that some of the startups are really working at. How is it that they can train our parents to make a banking transaction and feel very comfortable that everything went right? Some very interesting solutions are here. So these are essentially some of the opportunities that we are looking at. We are very open. I really invite new connections and discussions in this space. I mean, if there is anything we can do together, I'll be as happy as the group here is. Yeah? Any questions you would like to know? Any other information about our company? Would be happy to share.
Well,
Please.
first of all, I think it's very good that you're investing and working into the area of breast cancer, and especially everything around radiology, because there's so much development that can be done, and right now a radiologist can only do 40 to 50% first time right.
where the robot can already do 80%. I think what's taking it to the next level, and that's maybe something also for you to think about, is eventually if you can collect, because there's a lot of decentralized projects going on throughout the world within different kinds of organizations. Eventually, if you can collect all those kinds of things, you create a huge database, and you will even be able to improve that just from 80% to 95, 98%. So it's
I would wonder, what initiatives would it take really for governments to really put this? I mean, this is really more of a public sector initiative that it must. I mean, from a private sector point of view, I don't know how much can we really spread. I mean, we could probably cover a few states, maybe 1 or 2 countries in and around India, but I think that's it, right? Because at the end of it, it's really the managers of governments which will help us really move to the next level.
yeah.
But I agree. I mean, that will really bring more efficiencies, as you say.
Yeah, for sure.
One of the cases, Ashok, so one of my classmates, I must say your students, got interviewed by a company which is into the insurance sector, the car insurance sector. So they are into the CV space. So what they are doing is that they are building, let's say, a model where they are eliminating the physical inspection of a car which went through an accident, for example. So, in today's scenario, people actually go across all countries, including US, Dubai, and these kind of places. People are actually, the surveyors actually go to a physical car, take pictures, and then they sort of give an estimate. Now, imagine if all this really happened in absence of that. And there is a lobby of people who is talking to car manufacturers, including Hyundai, where every time they release a new car, so they release a batch of 20,000 odd images of the car. They put it on, on a public access, and then companies like these startups actually work on it. Because in absence of the original images of the car, you're unable to detect the, the density of the dent and those kinds.
Yeah.
So very interesting things actually. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kishore. I would definitely like to meet your wife after this. I would like to call upon our next speaker, Mr. Nandish Manangi. He holds a master's in business administration from Switzerland University and has a doctorate in consumer analytics. Nandish?
Okay. Hello everyone. Today I'm here to give you an industry perspective over AI and RPA. So let me start. I need my presentation up, but yeah, I can start. So first I want to clarify the myth, what is there in the industry. And since I will be talking about the industry, what is happening in the AI and RPA space. So first thing is, RPA doesn't follow a waterfall model. So unlike the conventional software development lifecycle, how it has been, our engineers being trained. So that is where the opportunity lies, the kind of the opportunity in terms of what it can cater to. So that's the difference of what AI and RPA brings to the space. And second thing is, RPA and AI both are platform independent. In the sense, there is no specific industry or sector which they want to encounter or do the service. So that's where once you create a robot, and if you see any potential of replicability, then you have the business case for it. So you have to create once and then try out the application of it. So this is the APIs what a robotics can do it. So that is where the space has become so much in demand, and that is where we want our employees and organization to be feature ready. So coming into like this, why after the advent of big data, that is where the challenge is in front of in terms of harnessing the data. That is where robotics can help in terms of not just organizing the data into unstructured form to a structured form, but also looking into how to make it effective and give the power of RPA in the hands of the managers who can make effective decisions. So that is where the job of the institutes and the organization comes into picture where they need to train their employees to make them ready. So what is happening like in the industry? What is the buzz in the industry? So everyone is trying to reimagine their complex process and trying to streamline and standardize to not just to give a value addition to the client, but also they want to make sure that I'm giving you efficiency through productivity. And if their process is very simple, then try to standardize and streamline their process. That is where the industry is looking in, and definitely they are making use of AI and RPA around this. So where are the IT industries playing in this space? So if you see here, the right chart which is given by Forrester report. So if you see IBM, which has a very high market presence, this is all driven by the Watson. They started the Watson technology 5 years back, and that is where they have carved a name for themselves in terms of using AI, self-healing and problem-solving skills, which is built for Watson. And other companies around this who are claimed to be leaders are working around this space. For example, if you take TCS, they have their own Ignis as a RI, AI and RPA tool built in. So they are not looking at creating a new customer around this, but they want to retain their customer using or giving this benefit of AI and RPA in their existing clients. So this is where the maximum all the action is. And if you look at the leader space given by Gartner, so again, IBM is showing the way for other companies like HP and other things. This is on the IT space. If you look at even Dell, which is here, which is also showing way in terms of automating the logistic part of it. So not just on the equipment manufacturer or the service of customer delivery, but looking into complete a chain of supply chain management. That is where the efficiencies have been brought in to pass on the value to the customer. Now moving on, what are the RPA tools used in the industry? So if you ask me personally, I got trained on UI tool, so UI path, user interface. So they want to minimize the interaction between human and machines, looking at the cursor of a pointer in the mouse. So as long as we are able to step by step define and create the step, what is the purpose of it, and if that can be automated, yes, you have a scope and you have a business case there in terms of automation. So that is what UiPath do. But in terms of market presence, the automation anywhere and Blue Prism and UiPath, those are the RPA tools which are mostly used in the industry, which gives quick benefit in terms of creating the robots around. So in the, as like Ross was telling that in India, the manpower and the industries are way ahead in terms of the learning curve. So that is what the companies in India and which are catering to the US and UK market, they are looking at to transform their legacy outsourcing into the transformation. So we are not looking at tactical or anything which is technical, but we are looking at strategy. And we are looking at not on a, like if you ask me, in the recent past, the bill rates which were billed at on per hourly basis has completely changed. So for example, clients are giving upfront 25% discount with the belief that they are able to automate and bring in efficiency in their process. So that is the kind of thing what is happening in the industry. So if you ask me, like instead of having a, like as I said, the contracts, before the renewal happens, they are going into a completely long-term contracts. If I have to give one example, last year we saw the biggest outsourcing deal between TCS and Nielsen, which was worth $4.29 billion. So outsourcing is happening, but the kind of efficiency and automation what we are doing using AI and RPA is what driving. So that is the business which is exciting, and we are at an inflection point wherein there is a lot of exciting jobs to be done. So now, as I said, like if you look at the infrastructure, now the relational databases and other DBMS are being transferred into cloud. So the entire infrastructure and the setup time has been zeroed down to minimum or no time for setup. So if example, if someone wants to go for a contract renewal, they will not go for a contract renewal saying that by 1 month I will set the team ready, or after 1 month I will get your infrastructure ready. No, you have to be predictable and go with a complete planning, where if I sign the contract, then that moment onwards, I'm into the business and started delivering the projects for you. So that is the expectation. For that, you need to have the infrastructure backup required so that you have everything on the cloud, and the right place at right work is not applicable anymore. It is every time, like you have to have a model wherein your entire global delivery network model is at the fingertip in terms of delivering the same consistent experience to the customer wherever, it doesn't matter where in the world. So that is the expectation from the client. If you look at what has been done so far in terms of status update, we have already today in a position wherein our L1 and L2 supports are already automated to a 50%. So what does it mean? We are creating virtual engineers for ourselves. So having said that, it doesn't mean that jobs are going anywhere, but we are getting much more exciting jobs to do, like client facing, giving recommendations, measuring the actionable impact, or making an impact at the bottom line of the customer. So those are the areas where the real value of the human beings has to come into the picture in terms of delivering value. So that's where the virtual engineers are coming into picture, where service operation transition are automated to a level of 50%. Now, like a company which is like already having 7 out of 10 Fortune 10 companies as their client, what else they can ask? They have to look at creating bots within themselves. Like when I say bots means are mini robots which are created to create a human behavior while interacting with the software interface. So those are mini bots which are created inside the industry, so that the automation part, we are breaking it up and we are creating those bots. And once that bot is done, then that replicability part will come into picture in terms of deploying in different clients and different industries. So those are the mini bots, and why we are creating those bots are to increase the speed of execution. Second, because they can work for 24/7, and irrespective of like there will be no break timings or tea time, nothing. There is no work labor policy applied to that. So that's the one advantage. Second, it will bring in consistency of delivery, irrespective of how many times. More the times these bots work, it becomes much more powerful in terms of delivering value. The third, it reduces manual errors. So these are the three main reasons why we are creating bots within the industry. And Josbel said that Google has chatbot created using JSON script. So yeah, like now, like customer interaction is much more user friendly, and it is very easy, and it is open for everyone. So it is up to you to utilize the available freedom what Google has given to make sure that you create more bots for yourself. So, and the smart text bot, like I remember we created dashboards wherein we automated using concatenate function and give the up and drive sales for the customer. But the result of that is our file size used to become very heavy. Now the bots can do it in much more lesser memory space what is required. So that is the advantage of RPA which I want to bring from industry perspective to it. So what are the different capabilities these bots can do is, for example, launching any various applications, triggering or moving the files from one folder to other, or even a smart response to the question what is been asked for the client, or interacting with the enterprise tools. For example, if we require to trigger different applications at different places in the world, the bots can easily do it. Or augment the data and organize the data for you in required format, that is done by the bots. So those are something on data processing point, or in terms of extracting different data from whether it is PDF or Excel or even for the PowerPoint for that matter. So all that is put together what bots are doing for us. So now if you have to classify the RPA into two parts, one is attended, human attended bots, and the other one is unattended. When I say human attended, in the sense, yes, you need a human intervention in terms of executing the RPA robots what you have created, which requires, in this case, any databases which are residing in the system that still requires a human intervention. So that is human attended type of robotic automation which the industry is doing. The second one is unattended, wherein you have all the infrastructure set in the cloud. Now you need something to trigger on its own. For example, if I have to say, like my client database sets up in US at 5 AM EST. So before they come on 9 AM EST, that automatically a robot will be triggering the database, and on the cloud it would have been refreshed and the file is ready for her to review at 9 AM EST. So that is the expectation of the client, and now with the advent of AI and RPA, they are able to do that. That is the expectation which we are able to meet it, and this is the power of AI and RPA which we are going to bring to the customer end. The next thing is connected system. When I say connected system, I'm not talking about the Internet of Things, but I'm looking at connecting different devices at enterprise level, which is B2B. So for example, mobile, laptop, or the data, wherever it resides, we have to connect within at the enterprise level, wherein we are able to give that additional benefit to the client. For example, if a data coming from only retailer is not enough, if the data is coming only from the online secondary research is not enough, we want to club the importance of the retailer information with the online information, where the recommendation and the suggestion given to the retailer to improve his revenue is much more powerful and strong. So that is where connected system is coming into picture, and robots are going to help us to connect between the devices. And today here I will share 4 success stories which we are able to achieve in recent past. So one is on the retail major. So here the real challenge was like transforming the different complex data in the CPG major. So what we did was, as a part of solution, we created a reconciliation bot. So what does it is it automated the extraction, validation, review for the purchase orders for the SAP ERP. So that was very cumbersome from a retail major point of view. That has been automated in terms of reconciliation bot. So what is this? What is the benefit to the retailer is company got 20% reduction in cycle time. The time required to process the order into the ERP has been reduced by 20%. That is a significant for any major. Every cycle time reduced is a revenue for them, and 25% productivity improvement in the sales order. So as our cycle time is reduced, the more scope is there to generate more sales order for the retail major. The next success story or the use case which I want to show in front of you is on the leading high-tech company. The order management system of different equipments used inside was very difficult, because it has to toggle between 30 different applications across 12 screens. So that was a challenge for the leading IT technology company. So the solution was to bring in a transaction bot created, which created automated search and workflow for various applications. Once that is done, yes, you are set. In terms of looking into different applications, what you need, search with the product name or the equipment name, and you will get it, and the order is placed. So that is the solution which we gave, and the benefit was the company achieved 95% first touch resolutions. In the sense, the first order is placed is 95% accuracy what we are doing, which is very significant. Before it was at 40%, we were able to create 55% of the improvement around that. And experience is 25% reduction in overall completion. The entire cycle has been improved by 25%, which the company was able to give back this $900, $90,000 of annual savings. So that is huge in itself. That is the result in terms of cost saving. So what does company or client want in terms of cycle time reduction, cost saving, or even impact at their revenue level? So until unless we are not able to show this, they are not going to believe the power of robots or the bots which are going to create. So we have to bring that tangible element to the client, so that we are going to make them invest in the client and continue to be our client with our given discount what we offer upfront. And the last success story is on the aircraft equipment manufacturer, wherein there was inefficient order management. So Smart Bot here, which was created, automated the search and data aggregation from various web applications. The result of it is 75% decrease in average handling time in terms of ordering. So that is the total reduction of 850 plus man hours. That itself is a very good savings for any manufacturer like aircraft equipment manufacturer. And I have one more, I have to put this, the telecom industry is going through a very difficult phase here, especially in India, wherein there is a lot of pressure on average revenue per unit. So that is where every company are either consolidating or trying to bring in efficiency in terms of the call rates or even the usage of that hours of their the bandwidth. So the solution what was given was intelligent bot, which automated the entire customer service for the telecom major. So the entire incident management was automated. The result was $1.3 million saving for the telecom major, and 48% reduction in average mean time to repair. So any query related to your repair of your service or anything, whether it is hang up of call or call drop or anything, that average time has been reduced. So not only this, the reduction of cycle, actually 30% of the tickets were resolved by virtual machines. In the sense, without any human intervention, 30% of the tickets have been closed or resolved using the virtual engineers. So that is the usage of the bots in this telecom space. So now coming, what is there for us as aspirants or the enthusiasts within the company? Like the industry is going to grow really good, and there we have to have a lot of knowledge in terms of AI and RPA. So actually there is going to be a 50 to 60% gap currently in 2018, and it is only going to go wider. So what is required for us as an employee or the organization? Try to develop a skill wherein either you have like you have to bring the combination of statistical knowledge, domain expertise, and minimum computer literacy in terms of the languages. So if you can bring these three things together and train, then definitely you are there in terms of making a difference for your client. And this is the overall global impact or the market size where we are going to be. So it is not only the responsibility of the organization to get them the future ready, but it is also the co-own of the institutes like IBAC or anyone who is in this space to train the employees or make the employees ready for the future. So what is the road ahead for us is to help companies to achieve higher efficiency, greater performance quality, and also bring in advanced analytical capability within the organization. And we have to reduce and implement or deploy low cost ownership of different queries and services. So what does it mean for us? In the sense, like if we deploy, I don't want to leave the hall with an impression that yes, most of the jobs will be taken or away. As Joe told that we will get more opportunity to look into more exciting stuff, what we have to do. Or if I have to say that in a better way, it is not that job are going to go lower, it is about we getting promotion. We will get more promotion in terms of handling better client-facing work, value-added work, where we are actually lying in terms of our business. So that with that, I want to close my presentation today. So hope you enjoyed. Any questions for me?
Very informative.
Nandish, I have just one question.
Yes.
You know, the slide where you talked about the efficiency of the customer care in telecom sector.
Mm-hmm.
Totally with you. We've seen 3 companies really wind up and lay off like 30,000 people in the last, let's say, 3 years.
Yes.
Reliance Infocom, Tata Teleservices, NTS, and these names, Telenor. Uninor, yeah, Telenor. Yeah. Uninor, actually.
Yeah.
So, we know that the telcos which are surviving today are sizable right now. Yeah, right. I mean, all of them would have over 200 million users in India alone. And here you're talking about a $1.3 million saving on customer care. To me, it looks very small, but I would love to hear from you. What is the total cost of customer care of that particular thing that it represents? I would like to know in what percentage of savings would that $1.3 million be? I mean, if it's from a research perspective only, I'm happy to close the conversation. But if there is a solid use case, I think this is a very important problem the industry is facing. I mean, if it's anything like 0.5% of the total cost, it's a huge volume.
Yeah. To answer your question, yes, the universe of the magnitude of the impact, I do not have that number.
Mm-hmm.
But the impact was very much.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, so that's why we can talk about the impact what we did in terms of our saving, but the overall universe number is very difficult to get. But it requires further research. We can connect offline in terms of investigating further and like how best or what was the actual impact in terms of overall universe. And this is the same. If I do it for Uninor, it can be replicated because consumers remain the same. It is the service which will differentiate. Better we do, it is good for
This
the
was
company.
Uninor, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Any more questions?
Yeah. Just from my perspective, where do you see within India right now most demand for other AI development? So in what kind of spaces or areas are you, is there more need for like chatbot kind of things or image recognition? Do you have any insights into what's really hot in the market right here, right now?
Okay. If I have to understand the question, is are you looking at India as a market or India as a hub to service the globe?
Both.
So both have different perspectives. First,
Okay.
let me take your question on India as a hub, which can service the globe.
Yeah.
So you see it like India has a talent in terms of handling whether it is face recognition, fraud detection, or even for that matter, in terms of understanding or predicting the ECG thing before. The reason is like now we have the ability to have the data and harness the data in terms of whether it is image processing or having the large data, big data, and harnessing it. So if you ask me, we have the technology, or in the universe we have the technology to use it and use it for the application. So that is from the global perspective, and you will get immense talent in India to make sure that your workforce is set up to give the client the benefit. That is from the global perspective. Now coming to India as a market, now it is more driven by very large enterprise level. As of now, we have like all the use cases I took only from the enterprise level. I have not involved any PPP model wherein private or public investment is done, or there are no investment from the government in terms of taking it forward. So more and more the government agencies, and where for example we discussed about China, right? There the government involvement is high. So that is where it makes all the difference. And the magnitude what China can have, like for example, if India takes 7 years to do that, India can do it, China can do it in 1 year because government is involved in it. So it is all that enterprises which are large in nature are trying to drive in India for the globe or for the Indian market, but it is very small now. And believe me, obviously if a company like big as TCS or Infosys wants to invest, they cannot go openly with single-handed. They want to go with their client and driving the impact through them. Until unless that is not happening, it will take time. So that is a perspective on Indian market.
Hi, I have one question. Actually, Kishore was mentioning IBM has a product that it can predict the performance of employees. So I was part of the team.
Yeah, okay. I get it, sir.
Now I am part of a Watson Analytics. I see that now, like whatever we do in data analytics, okay. So of course, there is a human intervention is there to do the data analytics, but again, as a second opinion, so we go with Watson Analytics, okay? So we ask Watson, so whatever this thing. So maybe in future, yeah, definitely Watson will take over the analytics jobs, what we have. So is there any opportunities for, say, maybe in future, if we take on over all the things, the data analytics part? Because of course, like we does a lot of data analytics, but again, as a second opinion, definitely we'll go with the Watson. Okay, so it may, yeah, it may be perfect. Okay, but still, sometimes our data analysts are afraid that okay, one of the day, on one fine day, it will take over all our jobs, Watson. So yeah, how do you see the data analytics here in future?
Yeah, definitely.
Because it's also, yeah, it's a kind of a robotic, and it will take your data analytics part.
Yeah, I definitely I want to answer this question in large. Like IBM claims it. If you have a query, ask Watson. So as simple as they put it across to the public. But can Watson answer me questions? Like for example, we did discuss about emotional things, right? Still that is part something needs exploration. But having said that, as I said, it's an inflection point. It is not that we are going to lose job or entire job is going to be done by per se Watson. There are many tools, not only Watson. Many companies have their own tools which they are not coming in public. But yes, it is only the jobs which a robot can mimic is something which is existing, or it is self-learning to create that predictability. Other than that, it is the job of the humans to create that consulting behavior. For example, if I say the designations are going to change, unleashed job will be done by robot, but consulting job will be done by humans. And what is interesting? Consulting. What client wants? The predictability in terms of revenue acquisition or revenue retention, and how we can drive it. That if robot can do it, perfect, but I don't think only robot can do it. It is like co-working environment. It will not be a surprise if we have a robot serve tea, coffee or anything, but that is not the purpose why we are here. We are here to share the knowledge which only humans can do it. So that is the difference what even Watson cannot make, as far as I know. Does that answer your question?
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else? Yeah.
I think it's very, thank you for your presentation. It was very elaborate and interesting. And I was wondering if you look at the development in robotics and also the question on the data science and Watson. What are the major challenges you see for society to build an environment of safety and trust, and adapting to this new world, basically. Yeah? Because I hear concern. We have Watson that might be able to reshape or overthink my work. I completely agree with you. I think that we, as humans, will have our own special elements still. Even if we can outsource some of our own work to the technology. But again, I think it will also bring different kinds of social responsibility or social questions. And what is your view on that?
Yeah, definitely. The biggest challenge for the society is one, which is acceptance of the existence of AI and RPA. And also, we have to accept the fact that yes, if robots are going to stay with us, or many of the mechanical jobs are going to be transformed into either a handheld device, which is mobile or anything. So that is where we want a society to accept and learn and adapt to it. For example, we had Kishore did discuss, he's working on one of the venture where they want old age people to do the financial transaction smoothly and also feel safe and secure. So that feeling of safe and secure and assurance from the AI and RPA field has to give that. And that, as long as we are able to re-emphasize on that assurance part, that is when the acceptability part will come in. So more and more we do it at consumer interaction level, not at just at the enterprise level. So enterprise level, they make it for revenue, for driving the client business and value. As long as we want to make the societal impact and bring a difference in the consumer's mind, that assurance has to be done by RPA. So that is the responsibility. At the same time, it is an ownership of ours to make sure that we are impacting them positively without any fear. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nandish. That was really an interesting presentation. I would now call upon Ashok. He's a tech wizard in disruptive technologies by passion and an entrepreneur by choice. Holds a master's degree in business administration from University of Amsterdam and IIM Ahmedabad. Kishore. Ashok.
Thank you. Should I hold this in hand? There is my.
Yeah.
All right. I first thank everyone to being patient for 1 hour, maybe almost 1 hour 30 minutes, and thank you the previous speakers. They have a lot of details and very informative. So mine is a last presentation, so I'll just keep it very high level. All right, and I'll try to the point. Well, I'm an AI evangelist, so I believe everything about AI. There are people who believe otherwise. So I'll keep the discussion on the high level. Oh, where is it? All right, so that's about me, and thank you for Gunjan introducing, so I can skip this slide. All right. Really, we think AI is something which we are doing right now, past couple of years. But if you look at, well, maybe the technology is new, but if you look at when did we, as a human beings, try to replicate or try to duplicate human intelligence or recreate or playing God, right? That was for 1206. There was people trying to create a programmable automata. It is like a bunch of machines which can play music, create music. That's 1200 CE, Common Era. That's like long before, a few 3,000 years. Well, when you talk about AI in a modern context, we call John McCarthy as father of artificial intelligence. He has published a paper on 1950, been actively working on AI, publishing a lot of papers, concepts, right? And those are the concepts which actually make sense now, thanks to technology, big data, and the advent of technology itself.
how fast we can process, how much data we can actually churn, that actually given the wings to the concepts which were being discussed long ago. So AI is not new. It's been there for centuries, and 50, 60 years ago, it's been really conceptualized as AI. What is AI? If you really see a human evolution, I mean, whatever technology inventions we have been doing for past how many years? 1,000 years, right? Maybe Stone Age, 10,000 years. We are essentially trying to augment our own capabilities, right? We have a hand, we have a leg, we have, we can see, we can hear. Our initial ancestors, Stone Age man, they tried to augment their hands by using a spear or a stone, all right? This is something which they can, if you hit an animal with hand, it may not pain. So if you poke it with a spear, it does. So he augmented hands with a tool. And that's where the human intelligence actually started, augmenting our capability with something which is not us, it's something external, right? Well, even now we have lots of machines, like you have a JCB, this and that, hydraulics, all trying to augment our limbs, hands, right? Even the hunting, something between the Stone Age and our generation. Also, a bow and arrow is an augmentation of hand. This is augmenting our legs. All the inventions we are doing are trying to augment, it might be a fastest car, it's still trying to be faster than what you can run with your bare legs. So it's augmenting our legs. Yeah, it's augmenting our hearing capability, isn't it? I mean, of course, communicating the other side. Whatever it is, technology, but we are essentially trying to augment our abilities, right? Our senses. And that's augmenting our eyes. Microscope, which can see very small things, and telescope, which can see the other universe. Nowadays, it's possible, but still, essentially, we are augmenting our eyes. So our entire invention, what we have done till now, are trying to augment what we already have. That's what we can think. We can only think that. Well, now, they're trying to augment the intelligence, brain itself, right? That's a completely different ball game. Augmenting legs, hands are fine, we can deal with that. Augmenting human intelligence, right? You're recreating the intelligence itself. That's the age we are. That's the dawn of artificial intelligence. Hope that is a pretty high-level introduction to AI. Well, I'll quickly jump into the different use cases, which I'm actually very much interested to bring into the business, right? There are already algorithms which can predict heart diseases for patients, which is 100 times better than doctors. It's been proved by University of Nottingham researchers. It's been already deployed in a couple of UK hospitals, right? There's article references over there. So, essentially any doctor looks at the trends, their experience, and then try to say, okay, this is what you're going to have in next situation in next 3 years or 4 years. But AI can do it much better. 100 might be even a smaller number. It can do it much better because it can churn a lot of data which a human being cannot actually do. Law and order, you can find criminals easily or make the world a better place, pattern recognition, whatever it is, both in cyber and in the outside world. Retail, I don't want to talk about it because it's going to take a couple of days to actually discuss about it. There are so much of applications in retail space which I'll just leave it on a high level. Anything, I mean, we can literally track customer psyche and sell something to him, literally. He may not be knowing it, but you can really read his mind. That's where the AI is going from a retail point of view. Well, there are also some other AIs which works on the logistics and other things, but you get the point. AI in banking, all right. So banks are one of the industries. I mean, typically banks are lazy. I won't say lazy. Any from banking background excuse, but they are the people who actually adapt things at the last. But AI. Surprisingly, banking is one of the industry which is really adapting. I have a couple of cases working with JP Morgan Chase. They're really implementing fraud analytics just based on Bangalore. And more, one of my favorite areas, HR analytics, as Kishore was saying. We as a human being, we are very biased when you hire people, right? And also very limited in terms of analyzing. We analyze people based on the way they speak, how they dress, etc., etc. Not from the real data. We have lots of biases. There are also biases based on the species. When you say species, religion, or whatever regional feelings you have. Yes, will you hire a UK guy for you? I mean, if you're a German, you'll never. Dutch people, yeah, they are very open, they can do it. But if you're a German, you're trying to hire a UK person in a top position, there will be so much of resistance, find all kinds of reasons just to say no. He might be a very qualified candidate for that position, right? But if you can actually enable AI to do the work for you, I am a firm believer that most companies' competitive advantage, they have same kind of technology exposure, they have same processes, same tools. What makes difference is people. The people who hire in your organization. If you have the right people in your organization, you'll be successful. Rest all remains more or less same. That's how the technology is denominator is same. HR analytics or hiring or enabling AI to hire is a fantastic solution. And who is going to approve that? HR people. They don't like it. So it's going to take some time to actually get into the market. But well, it will eventually, because that's the way to go. We have many other things, cancer detection, recommendation, information. The list goes on and on. There are so many applications possible. Well, this I really like. AI can actually fight challenging diseases. They're coming up, not just diagnosing, that's already there. There are a lot of AIs created for diagnosing diseases, but there is a huge research going on finding drugs, combinations of it to fight new diseases, right? It will not be too far, actually, it will be soon. We trust AI more than doctors. Right? I think even now I don't trust my doctors that much, but in the future it will be even more prominent that an AI is what we're going to trust. As a humans, we don't trust each other, but we can trust AI. It's more legitimate. From diagnosis to treatment, everything will be taken over by AI, and that cannot be stopped by anyone. It's going to happen eventually. And I know that Kishore is working in many of the medical related things, which is exactly that space. It's wonderful. Well, AI has a potential to actually impact every aspect of business. Maybe a consumer service interactions, maybe your management agent support, and you can have as AI as CEO, How many of your fans of Iron Man or, okay, there's AI called Jovis. Literally, that runs the company. Everyone else just sign, right, That's the future we're looking at. Companies run by AI. I'm not going to say that AI taking over the world and stuff. That is not my area. But I can tell you that companies run by AI is very much possible in the future. Improve marketing and advertising effort. Most of the marketing problem we have is, well, we spend $100 and we know that 50% is going waste. The problem is we don't know which 50%. It's very tough to actually analyze the marketing ROI. My colleague is over here, and that's something which we always break our head. We know that 50% is going waste, but which 50% we don't know. So AI can actually make a huge impact over there. Product design, might be really surprised that there's advanced research going on in Bangalore for bench. It's in Whitefield, and they are designing bench components using AI. There are about 4,000 engineers working over there. I don't know if 4,000 are working as a design engineers, but quite some people are working in AI design, using AI as a design. They do all the other designs as well, but they're actually introduced AI as well in the design process. And that's really interesting that India can be positioned in that level of doing AI research for information. I tried to talk to this guy many times, I still didn't get into, but it's a research center and it's tough. But yeah, predicting consumer behavior, I was talking about it. You can actually read the customer. Image, improving logistics, hiring right workforce, I talked about it. Cyber security, big thing. One of the major threats in the future is cyber security. And AI can really help us. It can really help us. There are many use cases for it. It's for your interest. Just 2 months ago, an AI called Benjamin. Oh, did I mention his name? Yeah, I call him because it's Benjamin. So Benjamin he is an AI. It's a piece of code, still a piece of code. Has created an entire movie from writing a script, directing, and even creating the visuals. No human being involved in it. You can Google for it, you can watch the 10, 15, 12 minutes movie or something. That's Benjamin. And even this character did not actually, and I don't know this character, he's supposed to be famous. I'm ignorant about that. But he didn't really actually, I don't think he's alive. We have a movie of him right now. All right, so that's the power of AI. The Benjamin actually written a script 2 years ago in 2016, and people have made a movie out of it. Now he has created his own movie, and in the future, we did a lot of AI movies, and they are really interesting. I suggest to watch YouTube. Just a concluding AI and RPA. There are a lot of opinions outside. I see RPA as an octopus in business. So it can actually connect many modules of things. It can pull in data, it can do something, put it in some other system, it can process something, it can automate certain manual things. It's like an octopus, all right? I differ from you. It doesn't have an intelligence. I don't see intelligence in RPA. It's more like an octopus, all right? It's going to connect. Of course, you can automate a few things. The AI is the intelligence part. So AI code working with RPA gives you a full control. You can basically connect any system to any system, and also you can plug in intelligence with it. So I see a huge synergy between AI and RPA. That's how I see it. Anyone beg to differ? Huh? All right. It's beyond any doubt that AI and RPA are likely to play a major impact. Am I audible?
Yeah.
All right. So major impact on the work and productivity over the next decade. There's no question about it. There is absolutely no question about it. The key skills required in the future is less of technical. So, you remember days where people are talking about, okay, you know what, I know this programming language, I can live with that. 20 years. He's thinking about being, let's say, Perl programmer. It's going to be 20 years senior Perl programmer, senior Perl programmer. That's how the psychology of the professionals, literally, and this is how it is. I saw people from Netherlands. I worked there for more than 5-6 years. I spoke with many of the Indian colleagues. Right? I see that they think like, okay, I want a safe technology where I can hang on. There is no such thing. And in the future, your skills are actually measured not by what you know by now, but what's your learning coefficient. How fast you can learn certain things and then be more valuable to the organization. This is going to be a deciding factor for the future. So anyone saying RPA, can I just learn it? And yes, you said that 20 years I can, my daughters can actually work, but I'd rather see it differently. We are right now standing and we don't know what you're looking at. It can be completely different after 5 years, absolutely. Right. There will be a similar situations, but technology-wise, I don't know, AI can actually eat away RPA, for example. Right now they're friends, but tomorrow it can eat away the RPA. And only AI can stand. RPA is completely dead, rest in peace. Right? That could happen. There are a lot of articles and discussions happening in that direction. I see that learning coefficient is what actually people look at in the future, because we cannot really rely on a single technology. Well, I'm not giving any numbers. A lot of numbers already I've seen. The demand for data scientists definitely surpass the demand for engineers. That is for sure. It's been proven, projected by many organizations, including IBM. There's some report in IBM which says the same thing, but Gartner, Forbes, a lot of references saying the same thing. And given that data scientists are not considered as engineers, because that could be otherwise around, but the engineers traditionally, the developers and other engineering areas, data scientists' demand will definitely surpass that. And as per the IBM report, this is already well known in the market, 2.7 million jobs by 2020. And I think it is actually more humble estimate, could be even more than that.
Is this also given by the AI?
No, human beings, literally human beings. And I think that's a very near estimate. I have done my math in terms of how many jobs here and there. I think they are very near. That's a good correct estimate. Here.
So you can imagine that we need AI because we're just short of people.
All right. So it's a big challenge when job requirements change so drastically. Right? And especially, people, I'm pretty sure India will go into a bit of a shock in next 2-3 years in terms of BPO industry, because there's about 60% jobs will be disappearing from the market. And I'm sure everyone agrees in this room. And these guys have no clue. I see them every day, they're happy going for lunch, speaking. I was like, oh my God, they are they don't know. I can't tell them, and they don't believe it. They look at me as crazy if I do that, right? So, and there's so much of urgency in terms of upscaling human resources, the manpower. Right? They go into the shock a few months or 6 months, they don't have food, or maybe they're surviving somehow, and then they're trying to learn. That is not the good situation. It should be like, you should upgrade yourself, right? And that's a big challenge, because the quality of education and the way to actually find, if you Google, most of the articles in first 3 pages are marketing or blogs. So basically someone put it there is no real stuff, but they want to rank somewhere, so they put it over there. It's very tough to actually crawl and find some genuine knowledge, and even if you find it, it is in bits and parts. It's really difficult to learn from it. There are certain online resources, but still a challenge. I see IBAC plays a very important role in stabilizing the syllabus, and IBAC is actually a spin-off of Edison project from EC Commission. They did a very good work. It's a 2 years project from EC Commission, and they actually they created a knowledge base with a lot of nomenclature that this should be aligned to this. So I really think that IBAC can impact. They actually have a huge impact in that area to align the professional skills towards the industry requirement. Okay? And well, as Joe said, we are living in exciting times. And I call this era as era of augmenting human intelligence. Thank you. Any questions? No numbers or no questions? Yeah, I do have a question. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question. Thank
Yes,
you for
please.
your presentation. You were talking about AI and the modeling of part of AI, and that it's even possible that a company can be run by artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
What is your view on de-biasing the model? Because in my view, if you look at the intelligent artificial intelligence, the spirit of the model maker is inside the model. So you will have biased models, and you will have biased artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
So
I don't deny that.
how can we respond to that, or be prepared, or even be aware of the fact that we are creating bias?
I read thank you, very good question. I read about it, and I don't deny it, but I can tell you that the humans biasing is so many times than what you get it from AI. That's number one. But let me just make it more nice answer for you. This AI, we call it as prescriptive analytics. It actually works on 3 different analytics called as descriptive analytics, which basically analyzes the data, summarizes it, visualizes it. And you have predictive analytics, which we all know about. It tries to predict stuff. And then you have discovery analytics, which looks into hidden patterns, which is normally not visible. And this prescriptive analytics actually makes decision, taking these 3 things as input. And it's really data driven. That is, could be a very little scope. If you really have, see, you don't call it a decision when, yeah. So there might be a little bit of biasing, which could be based on the person who designed it. But it's really driven by data. The chances that the biasing will affect the overall company's progress is very minimal. And when compared to human beings, it's absolutely fantastic. The human beings, I heard about stories like this. This WTO tower crash, not a good event. US, 2 towers crashed, a lot of people dead. Not a good event, but a lot of senior management also did not survive that event. CEOs, CFOs. Right. And most of the companies actually dead. And what my opinion is not because the CEO and CFO dead, because it's actually a good thing that could happen. Any CEO is now becoming a lobbyist, holding his chair. It's like politicians, right? It's just the data which is gone. So that's the main thing. So I really see the current management of any company is more or less very much biased, and they're not really doing justice to the company. It is like they own the company. But when you create a brain for the company itself, then it is the company. that makes a lot of difference. Even if this is small by us, it is much better than what we are doing right now.
Yeah, I agree, but I also think it's very important to be aware that there is a bias and that we have a choice and the responsibility to be aware that we can create things from a win-win perspective. You know, if that's our belief system, if that's what's put into the artificial intelligence, that's what it will create.
Yeah.
And if we believe in win-losing situations, we'll create artificial intelligence that will create
That
winners and
listens to
losers.
this. Yeah, but we still have a human being signing it, you can check and say no. So that should be fine. Thank you. Did I answer your question?
Yes.
That was first. So please.
How do you see DevOps and AI? Are they similar or
Excellent
different?
question. I'm a DevOps expert for your information, and DevOps and AI. Well, DevOps is not, it's just an umbrella term. I assume that you're working in that as well. It's a lot of tools being collected, or the concepts being collected, like you say, continuous delivery architect, CD, or continuous deployment, all the concepts, continuous integration, right? These are all actually a collection of different concepts. They're given a name as DevOps, and even the tools of the DevOps environment is just evolved separately. The whole point of this evolution is, if I make a change in the software, it should be in the production, and it should be fast. It's not like 1 month release date and wait for the operation to give me a window, but it should be like there. That motivation, because it's all about agility. If the company cannot do it fast, your competitor will do it, you're gone. So that is the drive which actually pushed the DevOps. I don't see much on DevOps. Maybe we can use AI for finding the bugs proactively, or you have write a test case, you're literally writing a test case. The AI can actually create your test cases, because there is a lot of synergy. But that's AI working by itself. DevOps still is, the goal is to push the software. I see, it's a very good point. Yes, AI can actually help DevOps a lot, because you could actually write test cases, create test cases by AI, given the scenarios, and you can make decisions. You can actually say whether the software will go or not, which is much more concrete. I agree with you, yes. I don't know if I answered your question, but
Yeah,
actually question triggered me a thinking process in me, so thank you for that. Question, sorry.
Your comment about a German hiring a UK guy really triggered me. Because
No offense.
No, it happens, and it's also also in my experience, what we usually see is that there's excitement, and we really like to have it, and especially RPA is low invasive and it's supporting, so that's good. So everybody is really enthusiastic about this, they really like it. AI is a different thing, because now all of a sudden we sometimes need to trust the system, and that system is telling us something different than a gut feeling. How do we also, as consultants, need to take that into consideration from your perspective?
Good question, and it's more related to human psychology, very tough, right? If you don't understand, you don't believe. That's how human psychology works. If you only believe things which you understand, which you can control, you're suddenly saying that AI is something which you cannot control, it makes decision by itself. It's a challenge, I don't know the solution. I mean, it's really a challenge. And the only way you can actually cut through the challenge is to show a return on investment on small business cases, implement. You don't say that your company is going to take over by AI, then you don't get the next meeting with that guy. So you have to simply look at individual pockets of business opportunities for AI and try to create an ROI for it and prove it. And everyone loves money. I mean, business is about money. So if you can save something or make more profit, then they start allowing you to go for more solutions. I recommend, do not get into the domain where you say AI is going to make decisions for you, then you're done. No solution for that. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Ashok, I have 2 points. One that one of the things I really loved about your presentation, one of the points was of the learning quotient. So I would love to take it offline with anyone who's interested to understand if there is an opportunity to really build a product around measuring learning quotient of employees. Because since you actually spoke in relevance to HR analytics there, I think, and if this is good, and because I also saw a lot of 21st century skills that was part of Joseph's presentation. So just connecting all the dots, Because if that's going to form part of a software ability of a candidate, I think it's a huge information, hiring information that we can get. So love to take it offline.
Sure.
Would like to know your views on use of machine learning in the IoT space. I think that's one bit that we missed.
This conference is not about IoT, but IoT. IoT is about connecting and making things talk to each other.
Yeah.
All right. And in most often cases, your phone, a human being is actually acting as a connector between things. IoT basically cuts through that. And machines can talk to each other, then they can make better decisions, more eco-friendly, save energy, lots of opportunities. Again, IoT is more like your RPA. Not RPA, it's two different. But IoT focuses on communication between things. And AI is making them intelligent. You can have one intelligent thing controlling many things in your house, for example. Let's say you have a small cleaning robot who is supposedly more smarter than you. Sometimes it can happen because it's AI. And it's always at home, and it can basically control everything. It can control the security, it can control your energy consumption, it can control, it can actually answer some calls, and it can, a lot of things possibilities. So AI will become a heart or a brain of IoT. IoT is about connecting things, whereas AI is actually the brain itself. There's a huge opportunities as well over there, and there are a lot of people working on it. I'm not expert in that. Thank you. Questions? Yes, please.
During the session, everybody has talked about like many industries like medical and HR and everything. But there is one sector that I am interested in because of my past experience is the agriculture.
Yeah.
No matter how much robots, how many robots we have at our house, ultimately we have to eat and we have to survive, right?
Very good.
And
I have robot.
Yeah,
I understand.
I have seen robots increasing the efficiency of the human beings because before they used to use their hands, now have huge tractors which does the 100 days work in minutes. And because I'm from India, 70% of people are from rural. Most of them are living based on farming. How do you say? Most of them have said that AI is not going to take our jobs. It's going to give us a promotion, or it's a increase in our artificial in our intelligence.
Different question altogether. One question at a time.
Yeah. So everything is together is making me think what will happen to that sector, to those people
Sure.
who are completely dependent on producing food.
So it's the same question politicians ask. They'll say that AI is going to take over the jobs. Well, it also creates the jobs. Then you have to know which ratio it is. And it's politician question. I'm not saying a politician. A very genuine question. Let me answer that first. It's the same feeling people had when computers were invented, 1980. And people are working on banks. Right? I know some of them because senior colleagues who actually transitions all the time. And they fear, like, what, computer does our job, all our jobs are gone. Right. What actually happened is they moved to the next level. The same people become computer operators, data entry operators, etc. They got trainings in some banks. And actually, as a human beings, we actually widened our range. NASA is sending a probe to the sun. And we are terraforming Mars, actually. We are making Mars, we are screwing Mars, to be more correctly. We are not even taking permission from Mars planet, talking about. We are screwing it, and we are terraforming, means you are making Earth so that you can go and live there. Right. So jobs are not going anywhere. You have different jobs. So you explore the origins. You go deeper in the Earth. You go up in the space. Explore things. You're basically going to populate the entire universe. So you have more jobs. You can go to Mars and work there. So that's like very high level answer. So what I mean to say is that jobs are transformed. It does have an effect. I mean, in the short term, there will be some people suffering, but that's how any technology breakthrough goes. That's how it goes. So, and no one can stop it. So, live with it. The best way is to upgrade yourself, and whoever you can reach, educate them to upgrade the skills. Not like I work in TCS. They don't throw the people away. Yes, they do. Otherwise, they will be dying. There is no company on the planet who just save the people because they are human friendly, then the company dies itself. So save it. So you open a window for another small discussion, 2 minutes. Agriculture is one of the fields which really can benefit from AI, and actually one of the colleague a speaker I invited is Venu Ray. He is actually fully into it. In Tumkur, he actually has a container and he is trying to create automatic farming. Again, farmers will lose job, I don't mind, so I don't say no for that. But a robot, when you say, it's not a physical robot, it's like cameras and other stuff, so a piece of software, which can actually look at the plant, decide how much sun rays it wants. There is no sun, there's just the bulbs, all right? And there is no soil. You can cultivate your entire crop inside a container. And it is super, it is already proven. There is 2 containers in Tumkur, very near to this place. Has done the experiment, and maybe his friend who joined today from IBM can actually talk more about it. But I spoke with him. So you just lock the container. In 15 days, your crop is ready. And you can even have a robot to actually harvest for you. Right? You can do this in UAE, for example. There's lots of deserts over there. So you can put a solar cell on the top of the container and put some 100 containers, and you can make a hell of food out of it. Of course, sun doesn't have any problem with energy, just the conversion factor we have a problem. We have no food, but you have rains coming in, you have sun, energy is not a problem. You have a lot of energy in the universe. It's a conversion to some matter which you can actually eat and digest. And I see this container is really has a huge opportunity in the future. And you can actually solve, people say that you cannot solve the world hunger. Yes, we can, thanks to AI. It can be possible.
To comment on that, I saw an interesting video recently on LinkedIn posted by someone who was in the agricultural business as well, where the AI was able to read everything from sunlight, moisture, all those kinds of things, and the robot would just be able to give the plant the exact amount of water it needed in different stages of growing. It's really interesting to see how they can do it, but it's really improving.
We have done it in Bangalore.
Right, I'm not sure if that's the same experiment, but it's
very much, because we use lights from Philips. We have a particular rays, because not every plant requires the same kind of, all kind of radiation. It requires a specific wavelength. Right? And you can actually do this image recognition, see which plant requires what kind of radiation, what kind of water. Actually, let me quote, it's just 5% of the water you need to cultivate. We are wasting 95% of the water. So there are a lot of use cases possible.
Yes.
Any questions? No? You're very late. Hungry as well. All right. Thanks a lot, and I'll give it back to Tunja. Thank you. Oh, sorry. So when you talk about AI, I'm completely gone. I'm going into my mind.
Thank you, Ashok. That was indeed interesting. I would echo Tamara's thought, and just keeping my fingers crossed, and with the belief that we are heading to the right direction in AI, with AI, right? Because I'm born before the internet. I can probably say that. So
You don't look so. Do you expect that reply? Okay.
I would like to thank everybody for sparing time on a Sunday evening, and I would like you to proceed for the dinner. Thank you so much, gentlemen and ladies.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We can stop it.
Take this.
Oops, I'm sorry.
Definition.
We would like to have one picture, excuse me. So we'd like to have one picture together. The people who attended the conference, please decide. And you can turn this box towards the panel.
Yeah, actually.
And
They just cross it.
oh, that's it.
This it.
Yes, that's it. And say okay.